Okay, we're back in factoring mode. Let's take a look at this. We have 4 terms and they're asking us to factor. I've mentioned it before, but whether they say factor completely or just factor, it means the same thing. You always factor until you can't factor any further. And another word for factor is basically divide, because that's the operation we're using. So I kind of want you to keep those two synonymous with each other. All right, so first tell me, how many terms do I have? Remember, terms are separated by addition and subtraction. So yes, I have 4 terms. Subtraction, addition, subtraction, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Excellent. And the very first step of factoring is asking yourself, is there anything I can divide out of all 4 terms? Do they all have a variable in common? In this case, x. Nope, that guy doesn't have an x. Do they all have the number in common that I can divide out? Those guys have a 2, but those don't. So the answer is no. I cannot divide anything out of all 4 terms. Now, we use a technique called grouping. And when you group, just watch, okay? When you group, I normally leave it in the order in which they give it to me. It's usually in descending order already. I don't want to mess with the order, okay? It's like 1% of the time I actually have to do that. So when I group, I'm going to group the first 2 terms, and then I'm going to group the second 2 terms. Sometimes I call it pairing. And when I start pairing the second 2 terms, do you notice the first term of the second pair is positive? So the positive sign has to go with it. Good? Okay. And now I'm looking. I'm looking at the first pair and I'm asking myself, is there anything in common in the first pair that I could divide out? Yes, an x squared. They both have 2 x's I can take out. Second pairing. They both have a 2 I can divide out. Now you're like, well, what's the sign of the 2? The first term is positive, so I'm taking out a positive. Got it? That's always the case. That's why it's important when you pair the second group that the sign goes with it, because it tells you what sign is factoring out. Good? Okay. So out of the first pair, you're taking out an x squared. What remains? X to the third divided by x squared. Good, just x. Minus x squared divided by x squared. 1. They don't cancel, they're dividing. Anything divided by itself is always a 1. Yes? Okay. And now let's go to the second pair. You divided out a positive 2. Let's see what remains. Positive 2x divided by positive 2 is just x. Negative 2 divided by positive 2 is a negative 1. Wonderful. Excellent. So far, so good? Yep. Now, let me give you a little tidbit here. Factoring always ends in a multiplication problem. Always. Because you're dividing. It better end in multiplication. I have a plus sign in the middle of 2 multiplication problems. I ain't done. I have 2 terms, and I'm going to ask myself the same question. Do they have anything in common? Anything that's the same that I can divide out? The answer is yes. I can divide out the parenthesis of x minus 1 from both of them. And when I do, out comes the x minus 1. These divide. What's left? X squared plus, these cancel out. They divide into a 1 plus 2. Good? Okay. And now I have a multiplication problem. But wait, one of those parentheses has a square. No! That tells me it might still factor. That's okay. We got this. Let me put some side work over here. Let's see if you remember this. This is a quick refresher, right? Nothing in the middle. Nothing means 0. And it's always in descending order, so that's an x. So take the first coefficient, multiply by the last one. 2. What are the combinations that multiply to 2? Positive 1 times positive 2, negative 1 times negative 2. What's 1 plus 2? Yeah, 3. That's not 0. You can't replace with that combination. If I could, then it could still factor. Negative 1 plus negative 2? Not a 0. I cannot replace the middle term, which means this doesn't factor, and that's your final answer. Cool? Okay, I've got some examples coming your way. Try them out, and then once you're done with them, go find my answer key video. Catch you guys on the flip side.